There comes a time in life when you understand that no one is coming to solve your problems. No one will rouse you from your slumber, change your habits, quiet the turmoil in your mind, or pull you toward your true potential. That burden of discipline and responsibility belongs solely to you. The moment you embrace this truth completely, without justifications, is the moment your authentic life begins. We spend so much time in a state of waiting for permission, acknowledgement, or the perfect moment to begin. But you don't require any of that. What you need is focus, persistent, unwavering, daily focus, not on others and not on things beyond your control, but on yourself, on cultivating a stronger, clearer, more resilient version of who you are, even when the going gets tough, especially during those lonely times. No one cheers for the early mornings. No one acknowledges those moments when you prioritize discipline over comfort. No one sees you rejecting distractions, embracing silence, and bravely picking yourself up time and again. Yet, those moments are crucial. They shape you into someone who doesn't just wish for success, but actively becomes it. This journey is about holding yourself to a standard higher than what the world expects. It's about showing up every day with a singular focus, to concentrate on yourself until you succeed, not for applause or to gain approval, but because deep down, you recognize this life belongs to you and no one else will live it for you. So let's get started. No one gains power by mere chance. No one suddenly awakens full of clarity and strength without having first endured the quiet struggle that often goes unspoken. The truth is, success doesn't start under the spotlight. It begins in silence, in those early mornings when motivation eludes you, in those solitary hours when no one is observing, and especially when no one is cheering you on. That's where your strongest self gets forged, not through comfort, but through consistency. This chapter isn't about feeling inspired, it's about intent. It's about realizing that each day spent hesitating, doubting, or scrolling is a silent debt placed on your future. And this debt does not simply vanish. It accumulates, manifesting later as regret, lost momentum, and missed opportunities that you might not even recognize because you weren't ready to receive them. Strength doesn't arise by chance. It develops through consistent effort, particularly during the tough moments. So let me ask you, what decisions are you making daily? Because you are always making choices. Every time you reach for your phone instead of picking up a book, every excuse you make instead of taking action, every time you say yes to what drains your energy instead of no to what could empower you. These choices are not neutral. They are building blocks of your future self. What you choose to build or neglect today shapes the foundation you stand on tomorrow. The world has conditioned you to wait for motivation, as if you must feel good to take action. But motivation is fleeting. It is an emotional state. Discipline is what carries you through when motivation fades, and it will. This is why your power cannot rely on how you feel. It must come from your decisions, every single day. You must become your own coach, your own accountability, your own beacon of hope, because here's the uncomfortable truth. No one is coming to rescue you. No one will drag you out of that fog, out of that rut or cycle. But this is not bad news. It is a gift. If no one is coming to save you, then you have the freedom to save yourself. Start for where you are. Build with what you have. Don't wait for ideal conditions. The strongest individuals you know didn't have perfect beginnings. They simply stopped making excuses. They ceased negotiating with their potential and began doing the difficult work that most people shy away from. The consistent, repetitive, often unnoticed effort that transforms ordinary days into extraordinary outcomes. So begin to construct. Read instead of scrolling. Train instead of making excuses. Focus rather than flee. Choose silence over distraction. Choose depth over noise. Opt for what strengthens you every chance you get. For these small choices dictate everything. You aren't weak. You're simply scattered. The moment you decide to focus completely on yourself, not occasionally, not when it's convenient, but daily, everything will start to shift. The reality is, you don't need saving. You need unwavering commitment. Train your mind to filter out all external noise. The world is noisy, not just in terms of volume, but intention. Everywhere you look, something vies for your attention. News, opinions, comparisons, trends, likes, comments, expectations. If you don't train your mind to protect itself, it will be claimed by whatever screams the loudest. Not because it's your nature, but because distraction is easier than direction, and blending in seems safer than standing apart. But here's the truth. As your mind strengthens, the world quietens. Not because the noise disappears, but because you've chosen to stop letting it in. The Stoics warned us of this centuries ago. Epictetus stated that if you want to improve, you must be willing to be regarded as foolish. Why? Because people will always have opinions about your journey, especially when it diverges from theirs. Listening to them will shrink you. You will begin reshaping your life to fit their limitations. To truly concentrate on yourself, train your mind to be a sanctuary, not a battlefield. This begins with a radical commitment to mental clarity. You cannot grow when your attention is hijacked. You cannot evolve when your mind is cluttered with the commentary of people who don't live the kind of life you aspire to. Most importantly, you cannot progress if your self-worth relies on external validation. Training your mind doesn't require you to isolate yourself from the world. It means learning to filter it, discerning what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Not every comment warrants a response. Not every message requires reading, and not every opinion carries weight. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to justify your choices. What you need is inner clarity, a strong sense of yourself, what you are building, and why it holds significance. Consider your mind like a room. Would you permit anyone to walk in, toss trash around, and rearrange the furniture? Of course not. Yet, that's precisely what happens when you allow outside influences to occupy your mental space. Allowing gossip, comparison, critique, and noise to reside rent-free in your thoughts is something you wouldn't tolerate in your home. So why permit it in your mind? Training your mind means establishing boundaries, not just with people, but also with information. It involves consciously choosing what you consume. Evaluate your feeds, your conversations, your influences. If it doesn't aid you in growing, focusing, or deepening your sense of purpose, eliminate it. This isn't arrogance, it's clarity. Cultivating this mental discipline doesn't happen overnight. It's constructed moment by moment. Each time you catch yourself reacting, pause, take a breath, and ask, is this helping me grow or dragging me down? The more you practice this, the stronger you become. You start to notice the noise, but it no longer penetrates your being. It merely passes by. You have created something louder within, your vision, values, and direction. And that's the essence of this chapter. Not about escaping reality, not about ego, but about precision. The world will continuously attempt to distract you. If you don't define what matters most, someone else will impose that determination on you. Protect your mind. Nurture it as if it's sacred, because it is. Eventually, you'll reach a point in your journey where it feels like that silence has gripped you. The moment when your dream no longer resonates with others. Enthusiasm wanes. Support diminishes. The world progresses while you cling to a vision lacking applause. That's the true test. It's where most individuals falter, not because the dream isn't valid, but due to expecting others to believe in it more than they do. But the truth is, it starts with you. Before the world acknowledges it, before the results materialize, and before your loved ones comprehend, you must take the lead, with trembling hands, without guarantees, yet with a quiet resolve within that insists, I don't care who doubts, I will build this anyway. The Stoics recognized the value of internal commitment. They did not wait for praise or require crowds to maintain their discipline. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, took time each day to write to himself, not for recognition, but to remind himself why he needed to remain steadfast. Real belief doesn't shout. It doesn't plead for validation. It whispers repeatedly. Keep going, keep building, keep showing up. This explains why most people never realize their dreams. Not due to a lack of talent, but because they give up the instant things grow quiet. They mistake silence for failure. They conclude that a lack of support equates to a lack of value. It's within this silence that champions are forged. It's here that you learn to become your driving force. If you wait for the world to applaud your efforts before you act, you will stagnate. And if you cease to advance, the dream withers. So, what's your approach when no one believes in you? You persist. You construct it regardless. You wrestle, not for recognition, but for alignment. You remind yourself that belief is not something you receive. It's a choice made every day. In the early hours, in the rejections, in the uncertainty. You believe because you recognize this dream was planted in your heart for a reason. You believe because you're exhausted by living halfway. You believe because shrinking away from potential now feels suffocating. Let's make this tangible. Perhaps you're initiating something fresh, a business, a new habit, a shift in identity, and those around you don't understand. They mock it, minimize it, question why you bother, or suggest it's not who you are. But the truth is, their understanding isn't necessary. They aren't the ones waking up with your vision. They aren't the ones carrying that silent urgency within. You are, and that makes it your responsibility to guard. Some days will seem like you're wandering through fog. Some nights may bring tears. Some moments will ignite a desire to scream. Why isn't this working? But persist. Keep building. The effort you exert now, the faith you maintain in darkness, will transform you, not merely into someone who achieves their dream, but into someone who deserves it, who evolves into the type of person capable of carrying it. This chapter isn't solely about chasing dreams. It's about claiming and defending them, especially when you're the only one who recognizes their worth. The dream isn't sitting idly waiting for applause. It's waiting for you to demonstrate your seriousness. So take the initiative. Stand alone if necessary. Be misunderstood. Be doubted. Be overlooked. But above all, never cease believing. The truth, though simple, is profound and challenging. If you don't advocate for yourself, no one else will. The world doesn't pause to propel you toward your potential. Opportunities won't present themselves unless you open the door. Progress doesn't await motivation's arrival. And success never comes to those who only act when it feels right. Genuine change occurs on the days when showing up feels daunting, yet you do it anyway. Many individuals wait for clarity, for a sign, for energy, for an appropriate mood. But champions are forged not in favorable moods, but within rituals, through the discipline of presence. The choice to take a single step forward, even when every part of you screams to retreat or rest, is critical. You show up not because the journey is easy, but because the alternative, a life half finished, feels unbearable. Showing up doesn't guarantee victory. It doesn't promise empowerment, nor does it mean you are certain. It signifies that you choose alignment over avoidance. It reflects respect for your aspirations, especially when that appointment is solely with yourself. Those workouts, those writing sessions, those study periods, those moments of introspection, they're not mere tasks, they are votes. And every time you show up, you're casting a vote for the person you are becoming. But let's face it, showing up can be a solitary endeavor. No one witnesses the distractions you ignore. No one applauds the daily grind. No one celebrates the unseen consistency. Yet, your future self recognizes and appreciates these efforts. They eagerly await your continued progress, observing each small action, every quiet repetition, every decision to embrace growth over comfort. This is what differentiates dreamers from doers. Presence, not grand gestures or an overnight success story, but the unwavering commitment to showing up repeatedly. Reflect on those days when you didn't feel like taking action, yet you did. How did you feel afterward? Perhaps tired, but more often than not, proud, clear, alive. Those feelings aren't accidental. They emerge from the alignment between your aspirations and your actions. Conversely, you're familiar with the disappointment that follows an action, the shame when you break your own commitments, a quiet voice that chastises you for lacking follow-through. That's not guilt. It's your integrity seeking consistency. It's your higher self reaching out gently. So, what does it genuinely mean to show up? It means starting even amid chaos. It means persevering even when progress feels slow. It means returning even after setbacks. Because advancement isn't always overt. Sometimes it's subtle. It's the 1% improvement made when no one else is observing. It may not seem glamorous, but it's sacred. This chapter serves as your reminder. Perfection isn't the aim. Presence is. You don't need to excel in every session. You need to simply be there for it. You don't need to draft an entire book overnight. You need to keep writing. You don't need immediate transformation. You need to construct gradually, as winners aren't merely the most talented. They're the most present, showing up every single day. Eliminate every distraction that undermines your focus. In our modern world, distractions aren't incidental. They become a business model. Each application, every platform, all screens are intentionally designed to divert your attention from your own goals towards others' agendas. If you're not intentional about reclaiming your focus, you will lose it. Not due to laziness, but because your surroundings are structured to keep you unfocused. That's no exaggeration. It's simply the truth. The cost isn't merely lost time. It translates to lost
clarity, lost direction, and lost self-respect. Focus is not something you happen upon. It's something you construct piece by piece through subtraction and the discipline of saying no, to constant checking, to endless scrolling, to draining conversations and routines, and to environments that cloud your mind. Your mission demands energy, and energy leaks from even the smallest openings you leave exposed. This chapter serves as both a caution and a wake-up call. Every moment you allow distractions to dictate your life, you relinquish something invaluable that you can never retrieve. What concerns me even more is teaching your mind to crave noise, to confuse movement with meaning, to pursue novelty rather than depth. This issue transcends productivity. It becomes a challenge to your sense of purpose. Seneca wisely noted, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere," and he was spot on. When your attention is scattered across multiple endeavors, you will master none of them, and deep down, you will feel that tension of being busy yet unfulfilled, doing plenty but achieving little. That's the tragedy of distraction. It keeps you engaged just enough to dodge guilt, but passive enough to prevent real progress. So how do you regain your focus? Ruthlessly. Begin by auditing your environment, devices, time, and energy. Identify what takes more than it contributes, recognizes what disrupts your momentum, and what hinders your ability to do deep work or attain a clear state of mind. Address those influences, eliminate or at least contain them. Set boundaries, not just with people, but also with technology, entertainment, and your own habits. Organize your environment as if your future depends on it, because it does. Structure your mornings to inspire stillness. Arrange your workspace to promote clarity. Design your schedule to safeguard what genuinely matters. Remember, clarity is not derived from force. It emerges from creating space. And resist the fallacy that focus needs to be dramatic. It's not about working 12 hours straight or isolating yourself completely. It's about determining what deserves your full attention and what doesn't. Be intentional with your energy. When you eat, eat. When you train, train. When you create, create. That's what amplifies your presence. Purity rather than perfection. Most people live without ever experiencing deep focus. They remain in a perpetual state of reaction, swiping, clicking, and wondering why they feel anxious and unfulfilled. Don't let that be you. You are crafting something significant, and that endeavor requires a mind that is sharp, stable, and calm. Consider this now. What distractions have I been tolerating? Were those distractions costing me? And more crucially, what might occur if I remove them? Each time you opt for focus, you choose freedom. The more you protect it, the more you reclaim your life. Own your life without casting blame. There comes a point when you must cease pointing fingers, not because others haven't caused you pain or because life has dealt unfair cards, but because blame builds nothing. It stalls progress, traps you, and keeps you ensnared in a narrative where you feel powerless. If you linger in that narrative long enough, you may forget you hold the ability to rewrite the ending. Blame can feel comforting. It provides momentary justification and a target for your frustration about everything going wrong. But that comfort is nothing more than an illusion. Every minute spent blaming is a minute not dedicated to creating. You cannot concentrate on growth while your energy is tied up in resentment. You cannot advance while your mindset stuck in rewind. No matter how legitimate your pain, it's still your life to navigate. The Stoics emphasized action over emotion. They believed your response matters more than your storyline. Marcus Aurelius, facing conflict, betrayal, and illness, didn't plead, "Why me?" Instead, he asked, "What can I do right now that aligns with my values?" That's what ownership looks like. It's about determining who you will choose to be in reaction to adversity. Taking full responsibility for your path, despite not causing the storm, is essential. It's about asserting, "I didn't choose this circumstance, but I choose how I respond." That mindset shift harbors your power, and this shift doesn't require perfect timing. It demands courage and honesty. It entails looking in the mirror and admitting, "I've let things slide. I've waited too long. I've assigned too much blame. It's time to reclaim my role in this story." Let's be frank. Feeling angry is valid. Perhaps you suffered betrayal, or life handed you harsh realities that no one should have to endure. But what you choose to do next, that's where your freedom lies. This begins with letting go of the need for apologies, closure, or fairness, and embracing a stronger truth. You're not defined by your experiences, but by how you respond to them. Ownership can be challenging because it means relinquishing the excuse of blaming others, no longer hiding behind justifications or postponing action. It places you squarely in control of your choices and the future you create or evade. Yet, there's an odd tranquility that surfaces from this realization. If it's solely on you, then you possess the power to change it. So stop waiting for someone else to rectify things. Cease expecting circumstances to ease. Don't linger on the past when letting go is required. Release yourself, not out of necessity, but because you have the power to do so, and because your future is worthy of a version of you unbound by a victim mentality. Ownership isn't about feelings of guilt or shame. It embodies liberation. It's about gazing at your life in both its chaos and its beauty and declaring, "This is mine, and I won't waste it blaming anyone or anything for my current standing." That's where growth takes flight, not in excuses, but in taking extreme responsibility, not in waiting, but marching forward starting today. Push harder in those moments when quitting seems tempting. Each journey includes a point when quitting sounds appealing. You're fatigued, you feel behind, and nothing is changing rapidly enough. Doubts may overwhelm your reasons for starting. In these crucial moments, when giving up appears more logical than advancing, you reach a critical decision point: surrender or fight. This chapter is devoted to that pivotal choice because it's in these moments, not during the easy times or when inspiration flows, but in the tough moments where your future is determined. Everyone appears strong when circumstances favor them. Everyone maintains discipline when inspiration flows. However, the true victors are those who keep showing up when motivation wanes, when it's painful, when isolation permeates, and when certainty feels absent. That's where genuine resilience is forged, not in the absence of strain, but amid pressure. Many people quit prematurely, not due to lack of capability, nor because their goals lack merit, but because they interpret resistance as failure. They view pain as a cue to stop, when, in reality, pain often signals growth. Consider this. Muscle develops through tearing before it grows stronger. Breaking old patterns involves mental discomfort. Rising beyond your previous identity provokes the urge to revert to comfort. That discomfort? It isn't the end, it signals breakthrough. The Stoics taught similar lessons throughout their writings. Epictetus noted that difficulties reveal character. In essence, pressure isn't your adversary. It's the reflection of your true self. It presents you the chance to prove, not to the outside world, but to yourself, that you won't buckle at the first hint of resistance. Now, let's make it more personal. Whether you're building a business, transforming your physique, shaping your mindset, or altering your lifestyle, it may feel as if nothing's falling into place. You put in the effort, invested the hours, but results are slow. You feel spent, alone, invisible, and you begin to ponder, what's the point? Here's the answer. The point is you. It's about becoming the person who refuses to halt when it gets tough, who doesn't surrender just because it's quiet, and who doesn't require applause to continue forward. Every time you break through that barrier, you evolve. You amplify your tolerance for discomfort, broaden your resilience, and redefine your personal standards. This notion doesn't imply neglecting limits. Instead, it's about redefining them, as most limits are born from psychological constraints. The edges you perceive often aren't genuine. There's more strength, more focus, more fight within you, but you'll never uncover it if you quit the moment it feels challenging. So next time you find yourself at that juncture, tempted to give up, pause, take a deep breath, and tell yourself, one more repetition, one more page, one more hour, one more day. That's how barriers crumble. That's how a new identity forms, not in grand leaps, but through incremental steps. One day, you'll look back and recognize that the day you almost quit was the turning point when you began to become unstoppable. Trust your journey, even when the results remain unseen. There's a phase in every
journey when it seems as if nothing is progressing. You're working diligently, staying committed to discipline, following the right steps, and yet nothing manifests. You receive no applause, experience no sudden breakthroughs, and face only silence, stillness, and doubt. In these moments, many retreat, not from failure, but from the absence of immediate belief in what hasn't yet materialized. The truth is, real growth is often slow, quiet, and not immediately visible. Picture a seed beneath the earth. For weeks or even months, it may seem dormant, but below, roots are establishing and a foundation is forming. Walk away prematurely, and you'll never know what lay just underneath the surface, waiting for your persistence. The Stoics appreciated this complexity deeply. They measure progress not by external acknowledgement, but by internal harmony, by the comfort that comes from knowing you're doing the right thing, regardless of whether anyone notices. Marcus Aurelius encouraged himself to do what was right, asserting the rest was inconsequential. Neither applause nor reward, just the integrity of committing to what mattered. Trusting your process implies staying devoted to your efforts, not the outcomes. It means acknowledging that transformation doesn't send notifications or arrive with fanfare. It sneaks in during the grind, in the repetitions, in the study, and in introspection. Often, it's only in hindsight that you recognize you've grown stronger, clearer, and less reactive than before, but only if you hold on long enough to witness that transformation. Most individuals disconnect during the in-between phases, when results slow, when motivation dissipates, when a scale remains stagnant, when feedback diminishes. That's when your mind tends to declare, this isn't working. Yet, that voice isn't truthful. It's fear dressed up as reason. Yielding to it leads to chasing after new ventures, never allowing enough time for anything to change you. Trusting the process demands courage. It's the commitment to plant a seed, nurture it, and wait, not because it feels pleasant every day, but because you are aware that nothing significant blooms overnight. Even if the growth remains hidden, you know it's occurring. This principle applies to everything: your recovery, your business, your fitness goals, your character. You don't gain strength from singular dramatic transformation. You cultivate your power through relentless persistence, choosing not to surrender day after day, particularly when everyone would sympathize with you if you chose to walk away. Today, consider, where am I tempted to give up too early? Which part of me seeks immediate gratification rather than long-term growth? Remind yourself, roots are developing, the quiet is beneficial, the path is unfolding, even if it's not yet visible. Keep in mind that success doesn't always arrive with a knock. Sometimes, it patiently awaits to see if you have the resolve to stay committed. Stay focused on your vision until you achieve it. The world won't seize your vision abruptly. It chips away at it gradually, distracting you with what appears urgent instead of what's truly important. It inundates you with noise, obligations, temptations, making enticing distractions that only draw you farther from your path. That's the real peril, not failing or facing chaos, but a slow, invisible drift. One day of neglecting your routine, a week of agreeing to everything except your priorities, or a month of being too busy to contemplate your direction can lead you far from where you intended to be. That's why this chapter is critical. Regardless of how compelling your vision may be today, you must protect it to sustain it. Focus is not a permanent state. It demands deliberate attention and care. The individuals who succeed don't merely have goals. They establish systems that shield those goals from life's endless attempts to blur their clarity. They understand that every distraction comes with a price. Each detour necessitates recovery, and every lost hour constitutes a missed opportunity to build the foundation for their future. So, what does staying focused entail? It means awakening each day and reminding yourself why you started this journey. Prior to the distractions of emails, news, and surrounding noise, it involves crafting an environment that supports your mission rather than challenges it, and being deliberate in your thoughts, just as you are in selecting your food, your circle of influence, and your schedule. Your thoughts shape your trajectory, and your trajectory shapes your destiny. When you are steadfast, your vision isn't merely a destination, it becomes your navigational compass. It frames your choices and structures your day. You don't simply exert effort, you operate with clarity, and that clarity streamlines each endeavor. Is this action drawing me closer to my objective or steering me away? Does this task, individual, or habit reinforce the future I'm committed to? Or does it diminish it, even amidst chaos? Marcus Aurelius urged himself to return to fundamental principles, ensuring he remained anchored to his internal guiding force. Why? Because the external world is in constant flux. However, your mind, when trained and focused, can serve as your anchor. If your vision exists solely within your feelings, it will evaporate with the slightest mood shift. But if it resides within your habits, systems, and rituals, then nothing will dislodge it. The trap lies in this. Most people commence their journey with enthusiasm, mapping out their vision and feeling invigorated. Yet, at the first sign of delayed results or lack of recognition from the world, they drift, they scroll, they doubt, they seek comfort, not because their vision changed, but because they ceased nurturing it. Staying locked in offers the fire of commitment, not through mere inspiration, but via discipline and structure. Your energy is finite, and if it isn't directed purposefully, it becomes fragmented. Dispersed energy is incapable of building anything of significance. So how do you safeguard your vision practically? You frequently say no to whatever drains, confuses, and distracts you from your values. You track your progress, no matter how incremental, for measurement reinforces intention. Simplify, clarify, and automate tasks that don't matter so you could devote your finest energy to what genuinely does. And most importantly, reconnect with your why each day. Visualize your desired outcome. Remind yourself this isn't a hobby, it's a mission. When you approach your goals with this seriousness, the world responds differently. Not because it has transformed, but because you have. Your vision is sacred, but it isn't self-sustaining. It requires nourishment, space, and you operating at your sharpest, clearest, and unyielding focus. Reflect today. Have I been safeguarding my vision, or have I allowed it to slowly fade? Have I permitted distractions to become the default? What might change if I committed fully and refused to stray from my path until I achieve my goal? Remember, you're not here to dabble. You're not here to almost succeed. You're here to triumph. And the only way to do that is to maintain focus. Not until you're exhausted or life grows overwhelming, but until your vision materializes into reality. Rise every time you fall or feel disoriented. Falling doesn't equate to failure, nor does feeling lost signify weakness. Those moments, when you crash quietly, when confusion looms, or when clarity fades, aren't endpoints. They're integral to your journey. If you misinterpret them, allowing them power over you, you'll miss the lessons hidden within. They are invitations to rise again. This concluding chapter emphasizes power over perfection, the kind that can't be feigned, the kind that's cultivated when chaos reigns but you hold firm, when momentum stutters yet your determination remains steadfast, when you feel battered yet you still rise, even if falteringly, because that action, that quiet resurgence, is the strongest statement you can make for yourself. Not because drama accompanies it, but because it's genuine. The Stoics never assured comfort. They promise clarity, which depicts this truth. You will stumble, you will falter, you will face setbacks that disrupt your plans, diminish your confidence, and shake your sense of identity. But none of these define who you are. What shapes you is your response. It's the moment you decide that your last failure won't secure the last say. The moment you elect to rise again, not because it's simple, but because your future hinges upon it. Many collapse emotionally, not out of incapacity, but mistakenly believing that pain signifies something is wrong. Pain signifies something of importance. Confusion hints that you stand on the brink of something novel. The darkness, the quiet, and the setbacks, not endpoints, but rather means of refinement. Yes, the shaping process is painful, but it lays a foundation that comfort never could. So when life knocks you down, take a moment to breathe. Resist the urge to rush in fixing it. Avoid the temptation to numb it. Sit with the lesson briefly before rising, slowly and intentionally, with greater wisdom than before. That's growth. That's evolution. This entire journey revolves around a singular purpose. Not constructing a flawless life, but shaping yourself into someone indomitable. Let's consider practicalities now. Perhaps you missed a week at the gym, deviated from your routine, or succumbed to distractions. So what? That doesn't erase your previous efforts. It doesn't reset you to zero. It reminds you of your humanity and authenticity, signaling that the path you pursue is indeed real. Now, recalibration becomes your next focus. Show up once again, put in the next effort, write that new page, and make the next decisive action. That's how you secure victory, not through flawlessness, but through faithfulness to yourself, to your future, to the life you promise to construct. If you've fallen drastically and find yourself unsure where to start, initiate with forgiveness for yourself. Then take action. One small step, one deliberate breath, one solid decision. Repeat this enough, and the ground that once threatened to shatter you will serve as the foundation from which you rise again. Resilience is not merely endurance. It's trusting that a fall will not determine your fate unless you allow it. It's about remembering that you've triumphed through tough days before. This isn't your first struggle, and you will rise again. At this journey's conclusion, consider, what are you waiting for to rise? Permission? Perfection? Applause? None of these are prerequisites. What you truly need is to recall who you are and stand firm. The winners are not those who never falter. They are the ones who refuse to remain down. This journey isn't just about focus. It's about returning to your true self. Because amidst the noise, the distractions, the failures, and the expectations, you lost sight of who you are in silence. You forgot what you're capable of when you commit, and what happens when you shift your focus inward rather than outward. This episode relayed 10 truths, 10 reminders, 10 imperatives urging you to return to your effort, your vision, your process, and your tenacity. Now the query is straightforward. Will you act upon them? Will you cease negotiating with your potential? Will you stop waiting for applause, clarity, or motivation, and instead move forward regardless? Because those who win are not the fortunate ones. They are the relentless. They are the focused ones. Those who show up when silence surrounds them, who rebuild when chaos reigns, who protect their vision as if it were sacred, and it is. So direct your attention toward yourself, not just for a week or until it becomes difficult, but until you achieve victory, not for anyone else, but for you, for your worthiness, because you understand that everything shifts the moment you truly commit. You don't need more time. You need a decision. You need focus. You need you, completely devoted. Now, rise and start constructing. Thank you.